When his skin learned her name, Daehyun had a secret no one in the boardroom knew. The brilliant Korean CEO, cold-eyed, perfectly tailored, feared for his precision, was allergic to women. Not emotionally, physically. Since his early 20s, any prolonged contact with a woman's skin sent his body into rebellion. Rashes blooming like fire, breath tightening, his pulse spiraling. Doctors called it psychosomatic hypersensitivity. The tabloids would have called it a curse. So Daehyun chose solitude. 30 years of silence. 30 years of distance. No dates. No touches. No love. Until Makana arrived. Makana was an intern from Africa. Warm brown skin. Laughter too big for corporate hallways. Eyes that carried sunlight even on rainy Seoul mornings. She moved through the office like she didn't know she was supposed to be afraid. She smiled at people. Thanks for the elevators. Spoke to Daehyun with respect, but never fear. He noticed her immediately and avoided her completely, because every time she passed, his chest tightened. Not in pain, but in something dangerously close to longing. The accident happened late at night. Makana was rushing down the corridor, arms full of files, heart racing because she was already late. She turned a corner too fast and collided with a solid chest. Files scattered, papers fluttered, and before she could apologize, she tripped. Her lips brushed him. Just a second, a breath, a mistake. The world stopped. Makana froze in horror. I'm so sorry, sir. Daehyun didn't move. No rash, no burning, no breath stolen by pain. Only the sound of his heart, loud, stunned, alive. For the first time in his life, his body did not reject a woman. It welcomed her. Makana stepped back, trembling, certain she'd ruined everything. She didn't see the way Daehyun's hands shook as he steadied himself. She didn't see his eyes darken. Not with anger, but with wonder. That night, Daehyun couldn't sleep. His skin still remembered her warmth. The days after were unbearable. He watched Makana from a distance. How she hummed while working, how she bit her lip when concentrating, how she spoke of home with quiet pride. And slowly, carefully, he tested the impossible. He handed her a document, his fingers brushing hers. Nothing happened. He stood beside her in the elevator. Still nothing. One evening, caught in the rain, she offered him her umbrella. Their shoulders touched, and his heart broke open. Makana, he said softly, the first time he used her name. She looked up. Yes, sir. I am not allergic to you. She laughed, thinking it was a joke, until she saw the seriousness in his eyes. The vulnerability of a man who had lived untouched for 3 decades, standing bare before her. From then on, love grew quietly. No rushing, no fear. Daehyun learned how to hold hands, how to lean into a hug, how to kiss slowly, reverently, like each touch was a miracle. Makana learned his silences, his discipline, the loneliness behind his strength. You healed me, he once whispered against her forehead. She shook her head. No, you chose to feel. When Daehyun finally kissed her again. This time intentional, lingering, full. It wasn't a mistake. Whispers behind glass walls. It started with silence. No announcements. No scandal. Just changes. The CEO stopped avoiding the intern. People noticed. Daehyun, who once kept 3 meters of distance from every woman, now lingered near Makana's desk. Meetings ran longer when she was present. His eyes, once ice, followed her unconsciously. The office began to hum. She's always in the executive wing. Why does he ask her opinion? Isn't he allergic to women? I heard she's using charms. Makana felt the weight of it first. She heard the whispers in elevators, felt stares burn into her back. Colleagues smiled too sweetly. Supervisors questioned her work twice as hard. She began staying late to avoid gossip, only to find Daehyun doing the same. Their romance lived in stolen spaces. A locked conference room where he would stand close but not touch, just to feel her presence. Late-night emails written too formally. Hiding words meant only for her. A single cup of coffee placed silently on her desk every morning, always exactly how she liked it. One evening, as the office emptied, Makana finally broke. "I don't want to be the reason people hate you," she whispered, eyes lowered. Daehyun closed the distance. Slow, careful, until she was pinned gently between him and the glass wall. "I lived 30 years untouched," he said quietly. "Let them talk. I will not let them erase you from my life." He didn't kiss her then. He rested his forehead against hers, an intimacy deeper than scandal. Still, rumors grew teeth. Someone leaked a photo. Daehyun holding Makana's coat on a cold night. Headlines screamed favoritism. Board members demanded explanations. HR summoned Makana under the guise of professional boundaries. That night, she packed her things, ready to resign. Daehyun found her in the empty intern office, a cardboard box trembling in her arms. "Look at me," he said. When she did, he kissed her. In the office, under the company logo. No fear. No reaction from his body, only love. "I will protect you," he said against her lips. "Even from myself." From then on, secrecy became courage. They met in quiet bookstores, walked back streets, shared meals in silence-heavy kitchens. He learned how to laugh softly. She learned how deeply a reserved man could love. But love cannot stay hidden forever. When the board demanded Makana's removal, Daehyun stood before them, voice steady, eyes unflinching. "She is not my weakness," he said. "She is the only reason I can finally live." The rumors exploded, but so did something else, respect. Because the man who feared touch chose love openly. And Makana, once just an intern, became the woman who changed a legend, not by force, but by warmth. Their secret romance didn't break the company. When he chose her in the light, the confession happened on a Monday. No warning, no spin. The boardroom was full. Executives, investors, legal teams, media waiting outside like sharks. Makana wasn't supposed to be there. She stood at the back, hands folded. The boardroom was full. Executives, investors, legal teams, media waiting outside like sharks. Makana wasn't supposed to be there. She stood at the back, hands folded, heart pounding, prepared to disappear if asked. Daehyun stood at the head of the table. Perfect suit, calm expression. Then he said the words that shattered 30 years of silence. "I am in a relationship." Gasped. The chairs shifted. "With Makana." Every eye turned. Some were shocked, some with envy, some with disbelief. "She was my intern," he continued, voice steady. "But she is now my partner, not because of favoritism, not because of rebellion, but because she is the only woman my body has ever accepted." A pause. "For 30 years, I lived untouched. No affection, no closeness. Doctors failed. Logic failed. She did not." Makana's breath caught. "I will not hide her," he finished. "If loving her costs me this company, I will still choose her." Silence swallowed the room. Then applause. Slow, respectful, unstoppable. The news exploded within hours. Headlines flipped from scandal to miracle. Hate came too, but it couldn't compete with awe. Makana was no longer invisible. Daehyun promoted her, not as a favor but publicly, transparently, placing her in a strategy role she earned. He mentored her openly, defended her fiercely, never once dimmed her light to protect his own. They became a power couple without trying. She brought warmth into boardrooms. He brought discipline into her dreams. At events, his hand rested proudly at the small of her back. Cameras flashed, but he never let go. When she spoke, he listened like the world had gone quiet. "Before Makana," he said in an interview, "success was control. After her, success became meaning." They built together. Charity programs connecting Africa and Asia, internships for young women, policies that valued humanity as much as profit. At night, in their quiet apartment, power dissolved. He would sit on the floor, head resting against her knees, letting her fingers trace his hair, still amazed that touch didn't hurt. "Do you know," he whispered once, that loving you is the bravest thing I've ever done? She smiled. And being chosen by you publicly is my strength. They weren't perfect, but they were unhidden. And in choosing each other in the light, they became more than gossip, more than headlines. They became proof that love can rewrite biology, that courage can look like tenderness, and that a man who feared touch could become a king, simply by holding one woman's hand. The proposal he practiced in his sleep. Daehyun did not propose with cameras. He proposed with trembling hands. It was a quiet evening in early spring. Their apartment windows were open, Seoul glowing softly outside. Makana was barefoot, wearing one of his shirts, cooking while humming a song from home. He watched her like she was the answer to a question he'd carried his whole life. Makana, he said. She turned. Yes. He sank to his knees. Not dramatically, not rehearsed, just real. For 30 years, he began, voice unsteady. My body taught me fear. My heart learned silence. I built an empire because it was easier than building intimacy. Her eyes filled. Then you kissed me by accident, he whispered. And my life began. He held out a simple ring, gold, warm, unassuming. I don't want a love that hides. I don't want a future without your laughter in it. Will you marry me? Not to save me, not to complete me, but to walk beside me. Makana covered her mouth, tears falling freely. Yes, she breathed. Yes, Daehyun. Always yes. He stood and kissed her, slow, reverent, like a vow sealed in breath, a wedding made of truth. They married quietly, no grand hall, no spectacle, just a sunlit garden, white flowers, soft music, and people who truly mattered. Makana wore a simple dress that flowed like forgiveness. Her hair was natural, radiant. Daehyun wore ivory, eyes fixed only on her, as if the world had narrowed to one woman walking toward him. When it was time for vows, his voice broke. I could not touch the world, he said, but you touched me, and stayed. Makana smiled through tears. You did not need healing, she replied softly. You needed permission to love. When they kissed as husband and wife, it wasn't applause that filled the air. It was peaceful, their first night as one. That night, their home glowed with candlelight. No rush, no expectation. Daehyun undressed her slowly, as if learning a language his body had just discovered. Every touch was careful, worshipful. Every kiss was a promise. Tell me if anything hurts, he whispered. She guided his hands. Nothing hurts, she said. You're safe with me. And for the first time, he believed it. They moved together gently, breath to breath, heart to heart. Intimacy not as urgency, but as belonging. He held her afterward like he was afraid she might fade. Forehead pressed to hers, tears warm against her skin. I waited my whole life for you, he confessed. She kissed his tears away. And I found you right on time. They fell asleep tangled together, wedding rings catching candlelight. Two lives finally resting in the same rhythm. Their marriage was not loud. It was deep. And in the quiet of that night, the man who once feared touch learned that forever could feel like home. Their home, where love learned to breathe. Marriage did not change Daehyun and Makana. It revealed them. Their home sat high above the city. Glass windows, warm wood floors, sunlight always pouring in. But the real warmth didn't come from the view. It came from the way Daehyun now walked barefoot through his own house. Unguarded, Makana's laughter following him like music. Mornings became sacred. Makana woke first, wrapping herself in one of his sweaters, humming softly while making breakfast. Daehyun would watch from the doorway, still stunned by the simplicity of it. A woman in his home, his wife, touching his world without pain. Sometimes he would come up behind her, arms circling her waist carefully, reverently. Good morning, my miracle, he'd whisper into her hair. She would lean back against his chest, completely at ease. Good morning, my husband. Evenings were quieter. They cooked together, him precise, her intuitive. He learned her spices. She learned his silences. When work weighed heavily on him, Makana would sit beside him on the couch. his head resting on her lap while she traced slow circles on his temple. Touch, once forbidden, became his refuge. At night they talked in the dark. About Africa, about soul, about children they might have, about fears he never voiced before and dreams she never thought she'd share with someone so powerful. "I feel human with you," he admitted one night. Makana smiled in the dark. "You always were. I just stayed long enough for you to see it." Their love was not loud. It was Daehyun tying her scarf before winter meetings. Makana leaves notes in his briefcase. Hands finding each other instinctively in their sleep. On weekends they stayed in, no suits, no schedules. She danced barefoot to old music. He watched like a man in love for the first time. Sometimes he joined her, awkward but willing, because with her he was allowed to be imperfect. Their home became a sanctuary, a place where the CEO rested, where the intern became a partner, where the man allergic to love learned that marriage wasn't a cage. It was a safe place. And every night, as Daehyun locked the door and turned off the lights, he words whispered against her forehead. "I waited 30 years for this life." Makana always answered the same way. "And I'll spend all of it loving you." The way he stood between her and the world. Daehyun had always been powerful. But as a husband, his power softened into something far more dangerous, devotion. He never raised his voice, never made threats, never needed to. People simply knew. At events, his hand was always on Makana's back. Not possessive, just present. A silent message. She is not alone. When conversations turned sharp or curious, he stepped closer, his body angling subtly in front of her. Eyes calm but unyielding. Makana noticed it first in small ways. The way he waited for her to finish speaking before responding to anyone else. The way he memorized her schedule so she never walked out alone at night. The way he listened when she said, "I'm tired," and canceled meetings without hesitation. "You don't have to protect me from everything," she once teased. He smiled softly. "I know. I will protect your peace." When online criticism flared, old rumors, cruel comments, Makana tried to ignore it. Daehyun didn't. He didn't respond with statements. He responded with consistency. He showed up beside her everywhere. He spoke her name with pride. He made it impossible to doubt her place in his life or his world. One afternoon, when a junior executive questioned Makana's authority in a meeting, Daehyun didn't interrupt. He waited. Then calmly, "You are speaking to my wife and a leader in this company. Choose your tone carefully." The room went silent. Later, Makana confronted him gently. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," he said, cupping her face. "I did. No one defended me when I was afraid of touch. I will always defend you." At home, his protection looked different. It was quiet. He checked the locks twice before bed, not because of fear but habit. He learned the temperature she slept best in. He stayed awake when she was restless, letting her curl into him until her breathing slowed. Sometimes she caught him watching her sleep. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she murmured once. "Because," he whispered, brushing her cheek. "I used to believe love would destroy me. Now I know it keeps me alive." When Makana traveled alone for work, he never demanded updates. But his messages arrived like clockwork. "Did you eat? Did you arrive safely? Call me when you're tired, not when you're free." And when she returned, he held her longer than necessary, forehead pressed to hers, as if grounding himself. His devotion wasn't loud. It was chosen every day. He didn't cage her. He anchored her. And Makana, strong and radiant, never felt smaller beside him. Only safer, steadier, deeply loved. "You don't protect me because I'm weak," she said once. He kissed her hand. "No, I protect you because loving you is my greatest responsibility." And in that devotion, gentle, unshakable, Makana knew this wasn't an obsession. It was home. When love became a life, Makana found out on an ordinary morning. No drama, no rush, just a faint nausea, a pause in the bathroom, and 2 lines that changed the air around her forever. She sat on the edge of the tub, one hand over her mouth, the other over her belly. Still flat, still quiet, already sacred. When she told Daehyun, he didn't speak at first. He simply knelt in front of her, slowly, carefully, as if the moment itself might break if he moved too fast. "A child," he whispered, eyes shining. Makana nodded, tears slipping free. "Ours." He pressed his forehead to her stomach, hands trembling. Not with fear, but awe. "I spent 30 years afraid of touch," he said softly. "And now my body helped create a life." His voice broke. From that day on, his devotion transformed again. If loving Makana had taught him courage, loving their unborn child taught him reverence. He attended every appointment, sitting beside her like a student eager to learn. He memorized medical terms, read parenting books late into the night, practiced holding a baby doll with comical seriousness. At home, he spoke to her belly in the evenings. "This is your mother," he would say gently. "She is the bravest woman you will ever know." Makana would laugh, resting her head on his shoulder. "And what about—" Daehyun hesitated, then finally broke. "I am afraid," he confessed. "If my body betrays me again, I don't want to hurt you, or our child." Makana didn't cry. She walked to him, took his hands and pressed them, deliberately, against her heart. "Feel that," she whispered. "That's love. It's not something you run from. It's something you trust." Then she guided his hands to their sleeping child. "And this," she continued softly, "is the proof that your body already chose us." Daehyun's breath shook. "What if I fail?" he asked. Makana smiled, the same smile that had undone him from the beginning. "Then we fail together. But you will never face fear alone again." That night he held them both, and nothing went wrong. No rash, no pain, no fear, only peace. Weeks later, the doctors confirmed it. His condition was gone. Not suppressed. Gone. They said it gently, like they didn't quite believe it themselves. "Your body," one of them said, "no longer associates love with danger." Daehyun walked out of the hospital and pulled Makana into his arms. Right there, in public, unafraid. "I was never allergic to women," he whispered into her hair. "I was allergic to loneliness." Years passed. Their child grew strong and curious, raised in a home where two cultures met in laughter, language, and love. Daehyun stepped back from the spotlight, choosing presence over power. Makana flourished, still warm, still radiant, still the heart of their family. One quiet evening, years later, Daehyun stood on their balcony, the city glowing below. Makana joined him. "Do you regret it?" she asked gently. "The risks, love." He took her hand, the same hand that once healed him. "I spent 30 years untouched," he said. "Then I lived the rest of my life fully." He kissed her, slow, familiar, eternal. Inside, their child laughed in their sleep. And in that moment, Daehyun understood. Love did not cure him. Love claimed him, and he gave himself to it completely, forever, without fear. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment. Also like, share, and subscribe to my channel and click on the notification icon so that you will get notified whenever a new story is uploaded.